Yeah.
Call the commission to order. Invocation made by Commissioner White.
That's what I had. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you that we could all be here together. Lord, we pray that you be with our community, with our nation as we continue to press forward this pandemic, Lord. Guide our leaders and give our wisdom to them. And be with us tonight as we talk about the wars here in the city. So in Jesus' name I pray.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Garber.
Here.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Mayor Lane.
Here. In your package, you have minutes from our May 4 commission meeting. Any corrections, any changes?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Roll call.
Commissioner Baker.
Yay.
Commissioner Garber.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson. Mayor Lane.
Yay. Now's the time we have set aside for comments from our citizens. If you wish to share something with the commission, please approach the microphone, give us your name and your address. Seeing none, we'll go on with our unfinished business. We have the second reading and a public hearing on ordinance 1080. So I'll close the commission meeting and open the public hearing. Would you read the caption, please?
An ordinance of the City of Collegedale, Tennessee, approving an emergency fee waiver to provide for repairs and construction and declaring a disaster related to the tornado of April 12, 2020, and providing for expedited future disaster relief.
It looked to me like all the changes that Commissioner White wanted in the ordinance were written in, and Christian and I worked on it last week, so.
Any comments or questions from our citizens? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and go back to our commission meeting. Any questions, comments from the commissioners regarding this ordinance? I just want to say thanks to Vice Mayor Johnson for suggesting that we put this on the agenda. Appreciate you doing that. We have a motion and a second for the ordinance 1080. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker.
Yay.
Commissioner Garber.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lane.
Yay. We'll go to new business. The first is approval of a railroad agreement. And, Sam,
This, whose was this, who sent it to us? It's, Eric, is
It was
this your?
T-Dot.
Yeah, I know.
T-Dot sent it to us.
Yeah, and I reviewed it, and it's kind of, the city has to be a party because they're operating in the city, and there's one or two things that we've got to do, which you guys understand, but there's really not a significant obligation to the city. It's more of an agreement between the state and the railroad for that purpose.
Correct.
it's this thing if you want to read it.
It's because it's in the city.
And in the message I got from T-Dot was the fact that there've been some minor changes and it had to be signed again or something. Do I hear a motion for us to accept this, approve it? You know, allow me to, no, because I didn't see the first one.
It was in how the railroads compensated for the time to review the plans by T-Dot.
Okay.
It's primarily an agreement between the railroad and T-Dot. Very primarily.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the railroad agreement. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker.
Yay.
Commissioner Garber.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lane.
Yay. Our next item is approval of emergency funding for brush grinding due to the tornado.
Good evening. Yes, I met with 3 contractors last week. They all came out and looked at the current brush pile that we had, and I got 3 prices. The highest price was $6,000 lump sum to grind what was there at that time. The next lowest was $25,000, and the low bid was $24,500. We've used the first 2 companies. We've not used the third company, but they seem like a reputable company, and we've done other work with them before. We just haven't done brush grinding. They recently bought a grinder, so they were interested in putting it in for us.
What's the name of it?
Scenic City Properties, or Scenic City Property Services. Mainly, they do excavation, dirt work. They recently, 5 or 6 months ago, bought a grinder. So, another reason why I'm interested in using them, they were low bid. The style grinder they have is like to produce a finer mulch, potentially more desirable. One of the feedbacks we get is there's big sticks in here. Well, we grind it to make room, not necessarily to make beautiful mulch. So they're right at the same price point. So if we get a better product for it, it's a good shot.
You have different colors here. Which one do you recommend?
The low bid, $24,500.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the bid of $24,500. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. And is approval of emergency funding for facility repairs.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I was hoping to have a couple bids tonight to present regarding the Collegedale Commons property due to tornado damage, as well as for the sewer pump station. But I'm still waiting to get bids back. But for informational purposes tonight, to be consistent with our purchasing policy rather, I was just going to present that we're having interior drywall solutions do the tile replacement at the library that was damaged due to the storm, as well as insulation that was damaged, and their bid was $3,138.
How much was that?
$3,138. And that was interior drywall solutions.
Thank you.
You only got one bid?
I got one other bid. And that was Dynamic Construction, and their bid was $3,400. So we've done work with them.
Move to approve the bid.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the bid for the library repair. Roll call.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay.
Thank you.
I think just for future reference, that was probably just a report from Andrew because it was under Ted's suspension. So y'all didn't necessarily have to approve it, but it's good to hear it.
No, so does that mean that, you know, this is still like that, we approve that one a little bit less? Okay, our next item is the change order for milling and paving on Little Debbie Parkway, heading in South Road.
Yeah, so for our contract for paving this year, Wayne and I missed a line item on it, and that's temporary striping. So with how Wright Brothers is planning out the paving, it would be best for them to put down temporary striping from the time which they mill it to the next day and come in and pave it. So there was 6,800 linear feet of temp striping for Little Debbie Parkway and Esmond Road at 20 cents a foot. That came out to $1,300.62. And then for the Talent Road section, it's basically just a minimum price for the crew to show up and paint it for that day, and that was $1,250. So grand total of just under $3,000. All said and done. And so at a contract, I brought the change order because obviously it was under Ted's thing, but it's a contract, so we, in the proper chamber.
Move. Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the change order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson?
Yay.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes. Our next item is approval of the channel partner agreement for the Parks and Rec Department.
So this agreement is with a company called Mission Control. It's an agreement to use their services for esports. One of the things Andy might be looking at is doing some type of virtual programming besides what's being done everywhere. UTC uses this program. I talked to the guy again today. There's several through NRPA is how I found out about this. That's the National Recreation Parks Association. So other parks are also picking this company up to do esports. So it's a virtual gaming program. So what we do is we set up their product. People are able to game against one another, and it's a tournament bracket. So it'd be like it's sports, but it's gaming. So it's a tournament bracket they set up. They play one another, and we basically do nothing. We can collect fees from this though, because it is a tournament. We can collect fees. They take 10%. We get 90%. We set up fee $600. That gets us the first 2 months to see if this is something that they want to do. That's the installation fee. After that, we pay about however many people sign up to play, and it's a yearly contract. So right now, we're gonna just think about trying this and see if it's something that the community would be interested in. Nobody else that I know is doing it, except for, like I said, UTC used it in intramurals, and of course, they've been out for a while, so. I can answer questions. This is, we've looked at different things. There's products out there that people can do from home. There's something called Twitch and another product where they can go in and use an app and they can play with another. We don't have any control over that. Anybody can come in, start the Zoom meeting, somebody gets your code, and let it open to anybody. This is very controlled.
Yes, all sorts of
The games, the tournaments would be PlayStation people against PlayStation people, Xbox. We set it up in a tournament format where they can play Madden. Right now, I think there's like 6 games they can play. Madden, FIFA, soccer one. There is Mario Kart. So most of them I think are sports related right now. They're going to be picking up a few more in the fall, not ones that I would put out there because they're the gun and But I think another one is Smash. I'm not a gamer, so I don't know the rest of that. But that one will also be something we can add to the list from August if people are interested.
How much would it cost to do, like, you said it's like per person or set up like?
It can be free, we can run it as a free program, or they can sign up to play in the tournament, we can charge for it. If they would play for, 2 to 3 weeks, one against the other, and like a round robin where they,
Does the company charge us to set up multiple?
no.
So just
Once the installation, once we do 600, it's, like I said, once we get to over 40, then that jumps up to another 600. But that's where we are. So basically, they charge, $10 if we get, 20 players, 40 players. Over time, the play pay for itself. But we still are offering a program that we haven't had access to before.
There would be the annual fee if we chose to keep it.
Yes. And that's based on players.
Which part of the trials? Huh?
Yes, so we can do a June, July. We decide that one day we can go ahead and get it in play and see how many people we get in the first tournament.
I'll make a motion. Give it a try and see how, not just limited, but how works.
Can, before I make a second and move forward, could we make a motion to, Sam, with the 2-year, two free months at the end of the trial period, re-examine moving forward how that is?
That's part of the agreement.
As part of the agreement, we've got it, I looked at their agreement a week and a half ago, so I don't remember if that provision in it, but Tracy says it is.
In August, everything changes, so all of us who have signed it, the Parks and Rec, everybody, that's when they're able to.
Yeah, our only obligation right now is $600.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's just to get it started, installation.
What's going online? Facebook and all that?
They would download an app and sign up, so we know how many people are signed up, and then when they want to play a tournament, they actually sign up for the tournament.
We can let them available through the web and all that.
And if we do it as free, we don't get anything back. If we want to charge for each tournament, then we get 90% of the cost, which can add up over time.
At one point, we paid $600 up front and then refunded if we choose not to do it month 3, or do we get the 2 months and then in the 2 months we pay the $600 if we want to move forward.
And we pay $600 for installation, and then in August, if we have more than 40 players, you have 0 that's 40 players is 600, and then if you have more than that, it jumps up to 120, it's another 600.
Yeah, I don't, the link that you sent me has expired, so I don't have it right. I'll take a quick look at it.
Yeah, I don't know about the agreement.
So we don't have
Commission
to-
control.
So we don't have 2 months free, we just have the option to get out of the contract at the end of 2 months. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
I have no doubt of the gamers that we have. I can only games.
Anything we can limit the people that get into this?
They can sign up, right now up to 40. So if we go over that 40 in August, then we hit that up to 120, and I'm gonna pay out another $600.
They can be somebody in Japan, China.
No, we basically, I don't think they're following us on Facebook or website.
I'm just-
It'll be released through social media.
But how we control it, until it gets in.
I think that I follow my concern something inappropriately, we don't automatically set a screen security printers.
Correct.
On computers and things like that. For security, there is a security
Yes.
and contracts that people that sign on have to register.
Right. The other ones, when I looked into, I can't remember the other, there's another program that gamers use where they can play against each other, so they can see each other's screens. I was reading through parent reviews, and those reviews weren't very good, because there is the capability of somebody coming in and doing something they shouldn't. This shouldn't happen with this program.
But they would be gaming with each other, so there's the opportunity for cyberbullying to happen. What kind of policies would have to be in place to protect kids? Because I game, so.
Yes, and you would know who you're playing, and it's basically an honor system, that 2 players turn in their scores, it's just like our pickleball tournament, they turned in their scores to us, they had to sign off, that they agreed that was the winner, and that was the score.
Any other comments or questions?
Just from a teacher perspective, I think the fee would be really important, so little kids, parents, at least know. I accept the range, but they gotta pay a little something. Because I hate to see, I don't know, when the guys get parents, when we kind of public enemy number 1 for providing this for their kids. Now, a lot of them is grateful, but,
I think.
I think if they had to pay something eventually, not only to begin with, you should. I think that would be a nice checkpoint for the minors, to the parents know they're involved in something like this.
They'll go through something like PayPal, and then at the end of the month, we would get a check back to us for our 90%.
The parents will be notified ahead of time, so I mean, just like the.
They're the ones signed up.
Parents sign, because of being minors, that the responsibility and they're made aware of the rules and things like that, they get permission to. Do we have roll call, please? We have a motion and a second on this.
Commissioner Baker? Yes. Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson? Mayor Lambert?
Yay. Our next item is reports from the city administrator.
You should have a copy of the fiscal 21 budget as you had requested early. Please look through that over the next week as you are able to. We'll be formally presenting that on Tuesday. Remember, Monday is Memorial Day, Tuesday at 4:30 here in this room. Draw your attention to the April 30 financial statement. We're approximately 10 months, according to this document, 83% through the year. I'm very pleased that the anticipated number of our property taxes came in as we had budgeted, actually came in a little higher, which is excellent. So thus far, all the revenues have come in as we have anticipated. They're always difficult to forecast. But you can see we're 83% of the way through the year. We've collected 90% of the anticipated revenue. So we're above board on that. That's excellent. As far as expenditures goes, everything's looking normal there. You will see, of course, planning is at 194%. That's because when we fund the Collegedale Tomorrow Foundation, that money comes out of planning. So when we transferred the $300,000 to do the boardwalk, that reflects in that. So that's why that shows it's over budget when actually it's a transfer of existing funds that we had. Thus, we are 79% in spending, 90% in collections, 83% through the year. Those are excellent numbers. Very glad to see how that has come in. We do have some good updates on our monthly financial balances. You can see that in the month of April, we have a checking account basically that sits at $1,862,000 and change. For the month, we collected $587,200. That was $395,600 in property and sales tax. Business beer and fuel tax was at $51,200. All the other categories we lump in as miscellaneous on the budget sheet, so that came to $140,400. Our CDs have expired. Once again, we've covered ground with you before that it is extremely unusual to have a CD lower than the actual savings rate. But as First Tennessee has to collateralize all of our funds and protect them anyway, we get a higher rate for that, I would imagine. So our CDs have all expired and rolled into our contingency funds. We've added money to that fund. The interest rate that we're getting on our savings is about 1.65. That's terribly low, but it's a whole lot better than most savings accounts. And what's interesting about it is that even if we purchased federal bonds, they're less than that. So there's really nowhere to put cash. In fact, I will bring to your attention, there's talk as you pay attention to the economic forecasts of potentially interest rates going negative. The best way to describe dealing with cash if interest rates go negative would be for us to put a pile of cash in the storage unit and pay to have it stored. That's the simplest analogy that I can come up with. Makes no sense absolutely whatsoever, but that's what a lot of people do. They'll buy federal bonds based upon the safety and the liquidity of those, but you're paying the government to store your money. So we'll have to look at something unique. We're not there yet by any means, but if interest rates go negative and things continue to march down, as I love to say, that would be weird, and we'll have to figure out something better to do with our funds if we can all possibly can. So $5 million and 19,000 is approximately 43% of our contingency fund relative to revenue. That's excellent, and we are glad that we have that. There are some cities, frankly, that are broke. We saw some news articles the other day about some of our Tennessee cities in a bind in that particular time through fiscal constraint, proper budgeting, and your approvals of all of that. We are setting in a good financial position potentially to weather one of the potentially worst economic storms we've seen in a long time. We hope that that's not the case, but there certainly is potential there. Our investment cash flow funds also sit at $5,194,000. That's a very high number. Let me explain why that number exists. As you know, 3 years ago, we took on a $4 million capital outlay note that's backed by a bond. We pulled the first draw off that. We were beginning to pull the second draw. I also asked for the third draw. The reason I did that is because even though we're going to be paying interest on it, With the way banks are starting to tighten down credit, even though this was an approved line of credit from the standpoint of a capital outlay note secured by a bond, I was much more comfortable in having those funds in our account versus sitting in somebody else's account. And if we don't have to request them and we have them, that certainly puts us in a better financial position. So it's like a bank can come in and cut your credit card at any moment, and you have no say over it whatsoever. So I'd rather have the cash in our accounts than in their accounts. It's that simple. So that's why there's $5 million sitting in our investment account, because we tapped the remaining years on that bond and pulled it in. Capital outlay funds still consists around $58,022. Sewer investment account is at $3.223 million. That is high because that's financing the projects that we're doing right now. As soon as we get the bill for those projects, that'll start dropping drastically because that's how we pay. We've already borrowed the money for the 2 to potentially 3 major sewer projects that we have. Airport fund investment accounts currently sits at $93.53. Entertain any questions that you may have on anything about the April 30 financial report.
So a couple months ago, we talked about, we found out that City of Chattanooga was fixing a property tax, I think on Old Highway, a couple of years ago.
I think we're talking about sales tax, local option sales
Did
tax.
we get that straightened out? Is it reflected in this?
Some of it is reflected in this.
A little bit. Go ahead and explain that. That's good.
They
What
have,
was the number? What was the final number?
they didn't send us a final number. They just sent us who was getting what. So they have a choice to either pay it all up front or pay it over a year. So some paid it up front, some are over the year.
So go further into, since he's asked that question, go further into our concern about that. We don't know who paid and how they paid. So a couple of months ago, we got $400,000 local option sales tax, right? We usually get about 200, a little less than 200. So we don't know who decided to pay lump sum or who decided to pay over time.
Is that the state that,
The state has all those numbers. They are very top secret
To
as far as
them,
the numbers. We can only see Collegedale. And it's only 2 people at the city can even
do
see
you
it.
know the total dollars that they owe to all the?
No.
services?
We
No.
don't.
but we know who did not pay correctly. And the state knows who
And for
didn't pay
which
correctly.
business?
So here's the other problem with that. In building revenue for next year, because we don't know those numbers, we don't know if that's going to mask what's really going on. We don't know. We don't have that information. We can't get that information. Here's what I mean by that. If we have a drop because of the COVID-19 closures, which we feel certain we will, more so at the state 7% shared rate, because that's per capita, versus our local option rate, which is the 2.25 on top of the 7%. We don't know if that's a true reflective drop or it's a drop and there's more and more money added to that from somebody paying us back, because they can only go back a year. So it leads us to say it's been extremely difficult this year, as I put in my executive summary, to try to forecast revenue for the coming year.
That we did an audit years ago.
We did.
Is there lessons learned that we can, do we have a list of businesses we can check with the state and make sure? we're
We-
getting those?
Yes, that's what we did.
We were doing that. It was a mistake on their end. We had just done an audit maybe 6 months before their mistake. They admitted it was their mistake. They switched computer systems. They manually entered in and just messed up. We had just done an audit, so there was no reason to do another one. A situs is what it's called.
We do a situs check every year, every single year.
What I suggest we do.
We already do.
I mean, because otherwise, we're going to take some money year in, year out, every 2 years.
Here's the concern, when we covered this ground a couple of 3 months ago, I can't remember exactly if it was 3 or 4 months ago. Kelly and Michelle, once again, helped work on and found some of this because, as Michelle said, when the state changed their program, they re-entered it, I guess, manually. They messed up. They put businesses in crediting the county, City of Chattanooga, whomever. Remember before, several years ago, there was some Bradley County getting some of our money. It was a train wreck. So we fixed a lot of that. In return for that, we do a status report once a year, which shows what our businesses are. So we once again lost a lot of money and didn't know it until we did our report again, which Michelle and Kelly worked with and found, and then we got the money back. But now that it's paid back, we don't know if there's a lump, somebody did a lump sum.
Yeah.
There's proof of that because our local option sales tax doubled for 1 month. But we don't know who did that. We don't know if it was Hamilton County or Chattanooga. That's an
They're
example.
the only two.
We don't know which ones it was. But the other one didn't probably. So they consider it almost proprietary information for individual sales numbers for businesses.
Well, I'm not really
Competitor, yeah.
I don't
Competitors.
know that, I just want to know if we got the money, right?
Yeah, it was Hamilton County and City of Chattanooga. They're the only two this time.
It looks like they tell you, Chattanooga, they do a lump sum of X or. nothing.
Yeah, they don't, and they don't tell us for what business either.
But then Chattanooga or Hamilton County may not have realized that they were getting more money than they should have. So when the state brings it to their attention, they probably did not know.
No.
It's challenging. But we feel on our end, we have it fixed. Any other questions? Good question, Vice Mayor.
So the bank account was at $5.7 million in March, 1.8, what did we pay out in between March and April? Or is that just the total?
We moved it down. You see the interest,
Is that
Funds.
what it is?
A lot of it came down from it, yeah.
That's what I thought it was, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah.
It looked right, but.
Put in our investment account.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just making sure we didn't pay off some kind of project and we were doing better or whatnot. So I thought that's where it went, but just making sure.
Remember, as we get toward the end of the current budget year, it's a good point. We had two major projects that we did in the middle of a budget year that were not budgeted. So when we bring in amendments, those projects will be reflected in that. We did put a traffic signal in front of Spalding. We did the Little Debbie and Ole Highway major intersection improvement. That's going to be in those numbers that we'll have to do a budget amendment and take care of. We're not there yet, but that's coming. Anyway, any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second to accept the finance report. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner White, Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Levin.
Yay. Is that all the emails?
Yes, ma'am.
Will we look at the budget up online on the website?
We will.
After it's approved.
Okay, so we don't put it ahead of time? I think the vice
We never
mayor
have
asked for, last year we had a public, so I just threw out, just curious, when we went through the tax increase.
You want a budget proposal put up on the website?
I don't know if it's going to change that, but it might be nice for people to keep us feedback.
We can do it.
And
Then you tell Tom to do
that.
I can tell.
We're going to go over that at the workshop, right?
Pardon?
We're going over this at the workshop.
Next Tuesday. That's correct.
If we can put that on there.
We will.
Sure.
And then on Uwall Ringgold Road, or, so Uwall Ringgold Road, I know there's still some trees and stuff sitting across, or right past Uwall Middle School. Is that gonna be part of what we've already approved in emergency funding, or we just pick that up on our trash pickup day? or-
Eric would have an answer.
So I've actually got a call into T-Dot for them to pick that up. They did some pickup on Uwall Ringgold Road south of Appleton Pike. So their maintenance guys, I've got a call and then they haven't called me back to see if they have crews able to pick that up. If they're not able to get to it, then we would pick it up.
Okay. I just didn't know if it was already something we had paid for or wanted to pay for or not, so. And then do we have an update on the insurance situation with the library in the comments? I know you talked about, you guys were talking with them about getting paid.
Still trying to get some bids
Yeah.
to come in. As you heard, Andrew, he didn't have the bids come in yet. Other than that, no other update.
So I don't know, pressure on insurance companies to be working with this, still getting
I mean, these are the adjusters
adjusters.
that are making their decisions.
Okay. And then lastly, there was an inquiry from the media regarding the COVID MOU with the police department. I don't know if all of y'all got that, I saw she's emailed all of us. I was just curious, the MOU, if it had been approved by us, or if it had been approved with the sharing of health department, with the people who have tested positive with the police department, and us and East Ridge were the only two cities that entered that MOU, so I'm just curious, who approved that?
All the police chief has to do is request that information that comes from the governor.
Right, there was an MOU that was signed, between the health department and the city of Collegedale. And I was just curious.
Was there an MOU that was signed?
Nobody. I have a copy of it in the statement.
Well, if you have a copy of it, why don't you tell me who signed it?
The chief of police did,
Well, why are you asking me?
because the MOU should come before us, so I was just curious how that.
Why would that be required to come before
Yes,
us?
it should. Any kind of agreement should come before this body.
That's fine.
It got a lot of negative press in the media, and I had some residents complain that their health data was being shared. So it's just curious why we were not asked for our vote on that, so.
I don't have an answer. But I want to know why you're asking me when you knew the answer anyway.
I kind of just want to jump the gun on it, so.
Really? Okay.
I don't know why you're being so disrespectful to me in the meeting, though.
Well, you've been disrespectful to me. I'm not being disrespectful to you. You asked me a question you already knew the answer
And
to.
I wasn't going to share the information, I was going to see if you would bring it to us.
Oh, of course.
So the Office of Civil
Interesting.
Rights has put out guidance that it's not a HIPAA violation to do that. It's a matter of the unique. And I will tell you that from a medical perspective, you always treat things as contaminated or they're exposed to something. I got mixed emotions both ways on that, but according to the Office of Civil Rights, it's not a HIPAA violation.
It's not.
No, my concern more was the fact that the MOU was not before us.
You're absolutely right. Any kind of agreement of that nature should come before this body.
That's all I have tonight.
So my question back to you then and the rest of the commission is that since the police chief did sign that, do you want to sanction his signature on that? Based upon what Sam just said.
Yeah, you can ratify it.
Yes, that's what I'm asking you to do.
That's something you need to do, since the health department said they're not gonna honor it.
That's not the health department. This is coming from the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
Well, the health department is really reports. So Chattanooga and Helena County are not doing it. You know, city of Collegedale, East Ridge, and all.
I didn't know about it until I read it in the newspaper.
As far as I understand, the state of Tennessee extended to any police chief, any police department, if they wanted this information, all they had to do was ask for it. That's my understanding. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was just provided as a matter of course. I didn't know it was subject to an MOU.
Nor did I.
And it's for the stopping the spread of.
That's exactly what it's for. And to let people know that there is an infection that this gets, take appropriate precautions.
It's for the safety of the first responders.
It's 100% what it's for.
That's what I understand it's for. But it's, I mean, if there's an MOU involved in it, then it should come to you. That's the bottom line. It's an agreement. And y'all confirm agreements.
Yes. So based on what Commissioner White has said, I'm asking the commission to approve that, please.
Do we need to see the copy of it, or put it on the agenda, or can we do that tonight?
It's up to you. It's just that you're getting information from the state, and what does MOU say, Commissioner?
It talks about that has to roll off after 30 days. It can't be shared with anybody, it has to be shredded, it has to be safeguarded. There's about 5 pages, I think, 6 pages, about how it can be obtained and shared and disseminated. I believe the Times-Free Press article talked about MOUs or somewhere in there, and that's how we're looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was my understanding that us in East Ridge were going through securing that information, but I just thought it was, I had to ask for it. I didn't know there was an MOU involved, so I guess the question, if you need to see it, then you can ratify it at your first meeting in June, and it can be disseminated, we'll have it disseminated in the meantime.
What is the wish? Do you want to see what they was signed before we ratify it? I need to have feedback before we.
According to Vice Mayor, this is not a HIPAA.
No, it's not.
It's not violated.
In what way, like having, they give my name to somebody else? How's that, how I get that condition?
It doesn't violate HIPAA for them to share it with first responders. But the agreement is.
You know, a lot of times you have chest pains, and you call 911, you say, I had a chest pain, I had a previous heart attack. Well, then this one, sometimes they'll EMS you, previous heart attack, previous heart attack, or that history. You know, it's kind of confidential communication between the two. But,
It's not that they're gonna broadcast it out to the whole public that your name is, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand what I'm saying. I have a question, and this is just, my concern is this, and I think what you did previously is right. But would it not have been more courteous if, instead of bringing it out in the open, to have gone and asked Michelle or Ted or somebody in the office and say, look, this is something I'm thinking you need to be made aware of, and I'm gonna bring it before the commission?
Well, I was just asking the question of where we were with status of it. If we do need to ratify it, if it's something that needs to be ratified immediately, it needs to be done.
But then I would like to get some more feedback. I guess I'm more of an analyst, and I would like to see both sides or whatever. I don't see a problem with it, to be honest with you.
There's not a problem. I have another question too. Are you sure that the commission, which I have absolutely no problem with whatsoever, of course, but are you sure the commission needs to do that? Because I think Lookout Mountain has signed on to this as well.
I understand what they've done, but I mean, if it's an agreement that binds the city, it
Okay.
needs to come before the commission.
Sounds good. That sounds fine.
And I've experienced this before a lot of times.
Mhm.
You know, they don't consider it the city agreeing with the county. They say they consider it the chief of police agreeing with the sheriff's department.
I see.
But still, it binds the city.
Okay.
And that's, it's a common thing among law enforcement. I mean, that they look at it that way.
Well, I'll talk to the police chief
Yeah.
and in the future, make sure that nothing like that's signed before it comes before the
Yeah, I don't
commission.
think we're going outside the lines, but,
No.
and if you want to wait until, or if you want to ratify it, subject to my reviewing it and including it and communicating that to the city manager, that's fine too.
I
I would feel more comfortable doing that without, laying my eyes on it.
Yeah.
I guess, a little curious, not really that relevant, but how many cities are in the county?
10,
10, and only 2?
3.
Very.
Well, look at now, joint, you said? So if it's a good deal, when it's other 7 and choosing not to, for how long do they have to do it? I mean, I'm just.
I would probably say other cities are so large, it's more of an administrative burden for them. I mean, it's like back in the days when HIV and AIDS first came out. You always went into a situation to protect, personal protection. And I think that's what a lot of the larger ones will probably do. And I don't know, my question about the report is it just the Collegedale residents or is it countywide?
I believe it's just Collegedale. And like you mentioned earlier, if there's an infectious situation or any type of security situation that is at a certain address, those are stored in premise files and communications anyway. And I think that's the spirit of what this does, is it advises the responders when they go in to take appropriate precautions, but there may be something at this particular address that they would need to do. That's the spirit of what this is intended to do.
Talking about, do we have PPE for our police officers, and they provide masks for them when they go into a situation like that?
I believe we do.
Okay. So I know East Ridge had a request for a grant for $35,000 for PPE from, for their use to happen, but I was just curious what our plans were for that as well.
Mhm.
So I would like to see the agreement, because isn't there some type of retention agreement laws that if you like to be in electronic media or paper, that you have to say it for X number of years? Or is the city exempt from stuff like that?
Well, I mean, we have public record obligations, but, and this is exempt from the HIPAA law, but I think it's still private information relative, something that we would keep confidential and not subject to public record.
But there's a lot of things that you can get information to detention policy.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the full subject to that.
Yeah, I just have to.
Like employment records,
Yeah.
7 years, 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've adopted the MTS-based
Yep.
retention policies
Yep.
or whatever that is. I mean, that should be easy to understand as far as that goes. I mean, that's what the legislature said is basically that's what we want you to do.
I'm not, Mayor, I feel more comfortable with hearing all written out notifications. I also want to make a comment, I think because of this, I don't think there's anything intentionally done, you know, on part, I think it's probably our police chief doing this, he did it out of good faith. And so I don't think there should be repercussions towards him or any other person if he was understanding like this, everybody else seems to be understanding.
It really is typical of public safety organizations to look at it that way. It's more like we're cooperating and all that kind of stuff, and they don't view it as a contractual obligation. And this is the first I've heard of the MOU on the commissioner, so that's all I'm saying.
Me too. It was my understanding they just had to request it.
And then in the future,
Yeah.
you know, once we get back the information, and then just in the future to see to it that
Yeah.
we follow the correct procedures.
Absolutely.
So do you want to put it on the agenda then for the first meeting in June, and
Let's do it, and we can,
you can ratify it then?
ratify, and we can see what the agreement is.
Can you make sure I get a copy of it?
Of course.
I'll view it.
So the interim here, yeah.
Well, I mean,
The health department says they're not sharing it.
Well, they're not sure.
No, they did away with that.
They stopped it.
Why do we have this conversation?
It's a good point.
They're not.
Yeah, I the email, I think they really did stop it.
They did, it was on the news, I heard, it was on the news, they said, yeah,
This is,
I didn't know
it's
that.
not over.
yeah, just recently.
Here's.
Just-
I see the picture, I haven't been back.
A local attorney, went on record that it wasn't proper thing to do, the health department stopped.
Bridget, you come here just a second. Is it not two separate things of what the Hamilton County Health Department was sharing versus what the state was sharing, or is it the same thing?
My understanding is the health department, Hamilton County Health Department was sharing it with the 911 call center. Tennessee Department of Health was working through the governor, sharing it with the chief of police.
Correct. So these are two separate
Yes,
issues.
they are.
So my question is this: is this memorandum of understanding we're talking about, is that relative to what the state is giving out or what the county was giving
The
out?
state,
Okay.
it's came from the state. And I
Okay.
spoke with Maggie Duncan with the Association Chief of Police.
So it is a separate thing.
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought.
Yes. They're very similar in what their content is, but it is different.
So the answer is yes, that MOU needs to come to the commission, but it's a separate thing of what you're talking about where the county has shut down their information.
The 911.
No, County Health Department.
Where were you able to get a copy from?
I can send it, it was,
I mean, did you get it from the state or? did
yeah,
you
from the
get it
state, Office of General Counsel.
So you have a copy of that MOU.
Same facility.
Would you send me a copy?
Yeah, I'll see you.
Thank you so much.
So that would be an agenda item for this June.
Hmm.
You know,
4th of July, are we still tentatively on 4th of July?
I've had several questions
Yeah.
about that. This last week.
We're good.
We're good.
Wear your mask, we're also.
By the way, those hats, that's got the swimming pool in it.
Yeah.
I saw some restaurants. Did you put your food on it?
You walk in,
A lot of ours will be helped because we have the grid system anyway. We implemented several years ago, and we feel that that will only take care of the things that we need to do with distancing, et cetera.
I just have a lot of gratitude for our public works people and Eric and his crew and everybody else's, Andrew, making this whole thing come back together, Kelly. It was a time with a lot of stress on a lot of people, and they seem to have a great attitude. You've got an awful lot of work done, so I appreciate you.
They've done an excellent job.
And I was happy to see that this week is National Public Works Week. I sure hope we're gonna do something for these guys.
Yes.
We have a motion here, I'll make one. We need to take care of those guys.
They are.
Okay.
Eric's on top of it.
They all get a free pile of wood chips.
That's all.
Commissioner Bailey. Two things. First of all, I want to just reiterate what was just said about gratitude to public works, and our police department, and everybody, city hall, and I want, you know, there's not a question, but I wanted to give a shout out to the police department. Today, my neighborhood, 2 officers came through cruising, you know, touring and all that. And they stopped down at the end of the street. My daughter brought me out to see. She said, Mom, look at this. And they were at the end of the street, and they just took a few minutes to step out, and because a child had waved at them with a basketball. So they got out and played basketball for about maybe 5-10 minutes tops with the child. And just made that was good. I enjoyed it. It's good work. They were just doing it with the child. Also, I have a question. I came over and I've been working in the evenings and early, by the pickleball fence. I didn't notice if the fence has been fixed yet or not, going to the pickleball. Okay. I know we have a sign there that states about the virus and all that, and it's not saved and all that. People are going through there and playing. I don't have a problem with playing pickleball, but I'm wondering about the liability because that's slanted so. I don't see a sign that says play at your own risk. You know, and then another thing is that children are allowed to be on the playground with. Why are we allowing adults to play on their playground with? You know, because I mean, I know they're adults and they have to make decisions probably a little bit better, most can. But I think that we need to either post something that keeps us from being liable, even though we're worried about that the park's closed, that there should be playing on it, but that's a possibility, unless I just didn't see it up there on that. And then why they're going through and playing when the kids are sitting there watching and they can't get their own equipment. So to me, that's kind of a double standard.
So the answer,
My thought is you're far enough away from each other that you're not really interacting face to face.
I don't care if they're playing
No.
the fence. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So I don't have any problems with them playing it. I would hope that would be open. Maybe it's not.
it is.
The fence is not.
But the fence is not, would be a problem with,
That's my concern, basically, the fence.
I
Because,
was thinking you were saying it wasn't there for the children.
well, it's not when they look to see, but at the same time, an adult should be able to make the decision if you have to play and do this. But it's tilting so like this.
The fence part that was tilting has been removed and the posts have been cut off. So the safety aspect has been completely removed.
That's.
And we looked at putting up like temporary orange fencing, but the problem is it's 4 foot tall and you're gonna get someone try to crawl over it and fall and break their hip. We've had that happen before. So we decided to make it safe, open it up, and you can't keep them off of it.
Oh, no, I mean, they were going through, I saw like 2 groups playing at a time, you know. I don't have a problem with playing that. The safety issue and the liability for the city is my issue. You know, they're avoiding the sun. They're physically making that decision on themselves to go in there and play, which is fine. But they need to be liable for themselves. The city doesn't need to be liable because they can't follow pursuit like anyone else.
I'm not aware, I'm not following you, Commissioner Baker. I understand what you're saying, but if the fence has been removed that was leaning,
I mean, it wasn't, it just recently been done, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's just because it wasn't there.
okay, so now it's okay?
That's what he said,
Okay.
they've taken care of it the last.
Well, to further answer one of your other questions, is the reason the playground is still closed is it's still damaged.
Yeah.
It hasn't all been repaired yet. So when it's repaired and then toward the governor's rules as well as the commission, if we feel we need to open up the playgrounds, then we can do so.
Well, I understand that. I guess maybe I didn't explain myself well,
That's okay.
because my concern was the liability.
Okay.
the safety factor one.
Got
The people. 'Cause I'm living proof that accidents happen.
That's,
I heard that. But that was the main concern. Because, I mean, he was extremely far, and I think, okay, they're going in there and they're playing, that's fine. But if they come out and actually that sways, we're gonna be, liable.
sure,
And I didn't see anything up there saying that they're playing for no risk.
gotcha.
Whereas if you can tell a child, hopefully, you can't go play, that's it. So, but since you've taken care of that, that answers that question. Thank you. Now I got a third question. I got a heap of decking out in my front, and I think there's some other people that have already, it's from the tornado and stuff. When is the next time that he's gonna come for, it's gonna be the 1st of June?
Look at my calendar before I misspeak. That's this week. Well, no, it'd be the first week in June, because you're the first week of the month, right?
Yes.
The first week in June.
Okay, so I need to pay you a fine because I've got 2 decks.
We're not, that I'm aware of, we're not writing violations yet.
I'm not moving it, I'm gonna.
By the end of June, I'm sure Andy will fire up some violations, but right now, we're not violating for fall or brush.
And I don't mean that in a bad way, but for me to have to move it by myself, it feels like a couple months for me to do it. But I was just gonna make sure, because I haven't put it out there. I'm good to go. Vice Mayor?
So Eric, thanks for taking my call today. I didn't interrupt your lunch too bad.
No worries.
I asked Eric when they will stop doing special pickup for the tornado, and he said probably June 1st, they'll try to get back to normal, but he will look at stuff. And my question for Andrew is kind of along this line. If somebody has volunteers that come out during this period, because you're at the mercy of the volunteers to get there, help you clear your brush out of your back. Can they sit out in the front yard for 2 weeks until we get around to picking it up, or a week until Eric leads his crews out there to pick it up without getting a violation?
Well,
Because it is a tornado related, so you're looking at.
yes, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of trying to allow a certain amount of leniency and grace, because understanding this was something nobody anticipated. And so we're not going to be bringing the hammer down. We've tried to be a proactive group to get people to hand out flyers informing them about obtaining permits to do repairs in their homes. But also trying to get licensed contractors. If an owner lives in a home, they can do the work themselves with the owner-builder agreement. But our main objective is to not try to fine people because of damage that was outside of their control. So we're trying to work with them.
I have got a couple of comments, apparently FEMA is stopping, June 1st, out in, I will call Holly Hills, Autumn Chase, Woodland, Patterstown area. That's their cutoff date. It's not out the road, within the county or Chattanooga will have to pick it up at that point. And I'm just so appreciative, that's why I called Eric for his input on that. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
One more thing about what the vice mayor brought up is there's a lot of stuff that's being put out on the streets that are not, it can't be connected to tornado damage, chairs and toilets and things along those lines throughout the city. We need to make sure that people are not doing that.
Absolutely.
Because Eric, it's my understanding you're doing your regular pickups as well as
Correct.
extra duty for trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always hit the brush on the side of the city that's supposed to be for that week, and we will continue that whole entire side of the city till we're done. Granted, people will put out stuff behind us, but we will hit that on the next wave through. And we're getting to where hopefully by the first week of June, we will have all that extra stuff from the tornado have been picked up. But like I said, we're gonna get it as best as we can.
But trees and construction is one thing, furniture and other junk is another. Thank you.
That's pick up on a different day when you brush it.
Yeah, but a lot of times we have had some neighborhoods that will just put something out on the street to get it out of their house, and the pickup's due for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff we're talking about, trying to police the city. with that. Thanks, Andrew.
I got a phone call today about, I guess there's been a request for beer at a local restaurant. Are we going to be having a beer party or
Let's go through the normal permitting
It's just a
process.
change of ownership, so yeah, we'll go through another beer board, but it's just for Los Patros.
So they've already had the permit,
Yes,
so this isn't something new. This person was really disturbed.
It's a personal, the permits are personal to the permit holder. In other words, it's got to be a named person to be the permit holder, and if that person's no longer the manager, then you need to approve it.
Evidently, this individual didn't know they had a previous permit there to sell, because I really heard it on the phone and I couldn't get the gentleman off. I also received a nice text from a person that lives up in Wellesley, and they were praising the gentleman that was picking up the garbage. I don't know what the total situation might be, but they were just described as, he went up and above expectations in picking up their garbage, and they really did appreciate it. So I don't know who picks it up in Wellesley, but you might pass it on that they made a customer very, citizen very happy.
Good to hear.
So, that's all I have.
I remember all that. So the latest from Governor Lee, as far as opening the restaurant to full capacity, is that May 22nd?
I believe that's
it's
right.
supposed to be.
I think so.
But they still have to keep that 6 foot.
Would be full capacity.
Yeah, I don't know.
Skip every table.
I think it's appropriate social distancing. But there's no way Los Patros you can see.
No. It's full
Let's call it,
capacity.
Physical distancing. Socially, we need to be social.
I have to say, so, we went out to eat the other day at Cracker Barrel, and we sit down. I would say it was empty, with the spacing, because they were definitely going on the game plan of the governors. But I appreciate what they were doing, but it just felt good to go out and sit down and have a nice, good meal. That's all I have.
I don't have anything else, when I hear a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
For adjournment.
Got me a Sam?